and welcome. I'm Dr. Damian Gibson. This is WrestleWolf, and this is our review of AEW Dynamite, a weekly review. Sir Matt, is still on assignment. We will continue to do the same format that we've been doing while he's been away. I'll just quickly run down the card of Dynamite. So quick recap and then a quick review. I have been sick as a dog this week, so there's been a lot less output, and I apologise for that, but I literally could not get out of bed. So this is the first time I've actually got out of bed, is to do this podcast. So anyway, let's get onto it. Get into it. We started with the highlights of last week with the Young Bucks turning heel. Then we cut to Mike Tyson was attempting to film an introduction and got interrupted by MJF, who tried to bribe him to be on the Pinnacle side in the Pinnacle versus Inner Circle kind of match later on, which Mike Tyson would be the special guest enforcer at. And then the opening match, we had the tag team championship match, where the Young Bucks got a win over Death Triangle, Pac and Rey Fenix. At the end of this match, the Bucks went after Rey's mask, which is no. Went straight. So from there, we went straight to Hangman Page, who was with the Dark Order backstage. Alex Marvez asked him about Kenny Omega and his rekindled friendship with the Young Bucks. Hangman dodged the question, disappeared, and then we got some very nice Johnny Hungy work. Up next, we had the number 2 ranked Red Velvet. She must have been pretty busy on Dark. Versus Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill got the win here. Next up, Tony Schiavone interviewed Britt Baker, and Britt was basically talking about how she's climbing up the rankings. Olympic medalist Anthony Ogogo with QT Marshall and The Factory. It should just be called The Factory, this whole thing. Made his in-ring debut against Cole Carter. This was ended by the referee after Ogogo landed a gut punch. We'll get onto that later, but anyway, I keep going to review it as we go along, but I'm just going to go through the card and then I'll give you my thoughts. Next up, we had Dax Harwood versus Chris Jericho with the special ringside enforcer of Mike Tyson. Chris Jericho ended up getting the win here. Of course, the Inner Circle and Pinnacle got involved. Pretty brutal match. Mike Tyson knocked out Cash Wheeler with a proper punch. Like, I'm pretty sure it was proper. If they somehow worked that, they did a really good job. But then we had a package, the video package for Thunder Rosa. She basically was saying that she's in the AEW and NWA Women's Championship race because Serena Deeb is coming back, who is the current NWA champion, which is still really interesting to see what happens with Power and Dynamite. We still don't know what the working relationship is there between the two companies. So my moment of the night was Chris Statlander coming out to the Pixies. It was worth every cent for Tony Khan to buy this theme. She made her in-ring return against Amber Nova. And got the win. It wasn't a squash match, but it was a welcome, I'm back, look out all other female competitors match. Dasha interviews Team Taz backstage, basically asking, have you heard from Christian? Taz is like, no, we haven't. There's still simmering tension between Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. Then we cut to Tony Schiavone, who's in the ring, about to interview Christian Cage, who gets interrupted by Taz. And then earlier, Taz had told Cage and Starks to stay backstage. Will Hobbs comes out with Taz, and Will Hobbs basically beats down Christian Cage. And then we're at the main event. It's a TNT Championship Falls Count Anywhere match between Darby Allin and Matt Hardy. These guys really brought it. Matt Hardy just looks awkward because of the amount of damage he's done to his body. But anyway, I will get to that in a second. Darby Allin retained. There was a lot of, not gaga, I'm not going to say gaga, but there was a lot of interference in this match. Dark Order came out, which I was kind of not 100% sure of. I mean, the Hardy family office were there first, and then Dark Order came out, and then Sting, Lance Archer appeared. There was a lot. There was a lot in this match. But anyway, Darby Allin retained. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this episode, guys. It's going to be a really short episode because I'm really not feeling 100%. But yeah, so a great episode. I watched a lot of WWE. The plan for this week was that we were actually going to cover WWE stuff. I was going to do. The initial plan was that I was going to do NXT night 1 and 2, Mania night 1 and 2, and possibly the Raw. Just as a little sort of WWE package to get out there. And I've just been I watched all of it, and then fell really sick before I could record everything. And it was so refreshing to watch this Dynamite after having watched 5 days of WWE programming. It's just so much better. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on Elevation and Dark that is not great. Not everything AEW does, I think, is worthy of a golden medal. But this episode of Dynamite was really, really good. What are the main points I want to take away? Look, I don't want to be too much of a dickhead about it, but I did mention in the last AEW review that I thought people were being hysterical about their reactions to the Bucks turn. And I don't want to say that I was right, but I was, that Matt Jackson's acting was pretty poor, and that's what people concentrated on. Or he was trying to convey that he was confused, but, I mean, supposedly after the Dynamite episode went off air last week, you saw more of the Bucks really turning heel, and I think that would have actually allayed a lot of people's issues with last week. But I think as a fandom, we need to be a little more forward thinking, and this probably goes with WWE as well. I mean, the difference between AEW and WWE is that you can trust AEW because the majority of their time, 95% of the time, the booking is quality. Whereas, 10% of the time in WWE, the booking is quality. So, but anyway, my point is that last week, all the, and I know all the channels have to have something to talk about. If you've got negative videos or negative podcasts or negative headlines that you can put on articles, then, you get more clicks, downloads, whatever. But I could not understand people's criticisms of last week. That made no sense to me whatsoever. It's like, I don't understand. Are the Bucks good? Are they heels? Are they faces? It was obvious that they were heels. But I was very thankful that the very beginning of this was a proper heel turn. That we saw the proper Bucks. That's the first thing that we saw, and they're just so much. They're so hateable. No one says it, but they just are. They're just hateable guys, and they're perfect as heels. And I love all of the elite guys being together. One thing I would really suggest is that Kenny Omega and Don Callis are the only ones cutting promos, or maybe Anderson. There was a promo that was done later. Don Callis killed it. Just a fantastic promo. Kenny Omega killed it. Fantastic promo. And then they passed the Mike to Matt, who Matt Jackson seems to think that he's a great promo, and it just lulls. And there's a sort of a danger of that happening a lot in AEW factions. They sort of pass the mic around to 3 or 4 different people when really there's 1 or 2 at most people who should be doing the promos. What's the point? I just don't understand what the point of having a manager is if they're not doing all the talking. That makes no sense to me. Unless it's a character development where that person's going to break out or something along those lines. Anyway, this was great. The match between the Bucks and Ray and Pac was phenomenal. Setting the tone is important in a wrestling show, and the first match obviously does that, and this match did that. So much fun. I really cannot believe that I'm getting into the factory. This is probably the one time. Well, actually, sorry. Let me hold off on that. I'll just quickly talk about Hangman in relation to the Bucks and the Elite, or Elite Bullet Club, Super Kick Party, whatever we're calling them. The Elite, I think is what we're calling them, probably. For them to immediately cut to Hangman, and for him to be dodging the issue, and the Dark Order almost covering up for him, it's just great. It's just great storytelling. The Bucks coming out of the heel tunnel as well, very sort of like looking through it, like, ooh, what's this like? Just great. Their Dior boots that they had on, according to Sean from Sean Ross, were $7,000, which is pretty phenomenal. Yeah, Anthony Ogogo. I like this. I saw a lot of criticism of people are like, oh, well, because the match gets stopped after 1 punch, that means that all matches should get stopped after 1 punch. It's like, no, it means that this guy's punch stops matches. I mean, does everything have to be spoon-fed to people? I mean, it's unbelievable. I don't buy it. He's an Olympic boxer, like, he's got the Olympic rings on his jacket. He talks about how he's a boxer. I think he's great. The governor, I love all of it. This is one faction where the main guy should not be doing the promos. The manager, QT Marshall, should not wrestle, should not do any of the promos. If he wants to stand out there and get TV time, fine, I suppose. The Chris Jericho Dax Harwood match was fantastic as well. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about how the Blood and Guts match is too quick for a conclusion to this feud. It won't be the conclusion to the feud. It's on Dynamite, so it's only a few weeks away. If you watch those old War Games matches, a lot of the time something will happen where it becomes a long-term storyline. So someone gets beaten down really badly. I'm thinking 4 Horsemen beating down Dusty, breaking his arm. I think it's 86 War Games. I think that happened. I might be making this up off the top of my head, but that sounds right. I think something like that will happen. There's no way that they're going to blow off the Pinnacle versus Inner Circle in 3 weeks. It's just not going to happen. So that criticism's unfounded. This is the thing that kind of... There's a whole criticism industry that's based on assumptions. And I could see why if you were a wrestler or running a wrestling promotion, you'd start to get really frustrated by it, because people fantasy book... and I'm not so... Matt and I are... I feel like we try... I mean, we're very critical of WWE, but everyone else, I feel like we try to be supportive. But, like, I've already in the last couple of days, you hear like, oh, well, this feud's great, but it's going to be too short. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, 1, you don't know that that's going to be the blow off to the feud. And 2, like, even if it is, there's no way that this... this story is MJF versus Jericho, right? Like that's how this feud ends. So the Inner Circle and Pinnacle are not going to stop fighting. I mean, you just got to stop and think. People need to grab a brown paper bag and have a deep huff into it before they start recording their podcasts and videos and shit after wrestling at the moment. It's hyperbolic, it's hysterical, it's over the top. It's like, oh, I love the Inner Circle versus Pinnacle, but it's going to be over in 2 weeks. You don't fucking know that, And just because you've got a YouTube channel or a podcast doesn't mean that you're going to be right. Anyway, sorry, that's my little whinge. There was so much that happened here. Mike Tyson was actually quite good. They didn't overuse him. He wasn't constantly getting involved in the match. He got involved when he needed to. I really enjoyed it. Chris Statlander looks amazing. And every Khan coin that was, shout out to Wrestle Talk with the Khan coin, but every Khan coin that was spent to get the Pixies theme song for the Best Friends is so worth it. I can't wait to see Chris Statlander getting involved in the women's division. I think that's pretty much it. The last match didn't do a lot for me, if I'm going to be brutally honest. I know a lot of people are really into it. I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't know if Darby Allin does that much for me. I've given him a year and a half. I've liked the little vignettes and stuff that he does. There are times when I'm into him. There are times when I'm not. Him wrestling Matt Hardy really doesn't do much for me. Maybe it's more Matt Hardy than Darby. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on Darby, but just anything. Matt Hardy, it's difficult because Matt can be really useful, and obviously you want to give him screen time and stuff, and I'm sure people would tune in to see Matt Hardy. But yeah, I just think you've got. I mean, they did 1.2 million in the ratings this week, so I can't. You could start Tony of not booking the show well, but I don't know. Maybe there's more star power that you could get into the company, so you don't have to have Matt Hardy's. I feel like Matt's a mid card draw at best, if a draw. I don't know. I think you have to be you yourself. If you're going to do a John Cena United States open challenge thing, or even what Cody was doing last year, which Matt and I are really enjoying, if you're going to do that, the person who's on every week needs to be really magnetic. And I know, obviously, AEW and TNT are getting that from Darby Allin, so they're obviously getting feedback from people that Darby Allin's a draw through the ratings and stuff. And that's cool. If that's happening, great. But just me personally, I think, if you... I mean, obviously, everyone's kind of in feuds, but a Christian Cage with the TNT title each week, wrestling, for 2-3 months, your up-and-comer of the week or whatever, I'm into that. Because I don't know if Darby's skill set is that great in ring. I think, he's kind of more of a stuntman than he is a wrestler now. That's not, it's the kind of thing that people said about Mick Foley and all that kind of, so I don't want to get people upset too much, but I just, in what was an excellent episode of Dynamite, this was, and I was so in, I was just going to say the last 20 minutes I kind of trailed off a little bit. I just found myself looking at my phone a bit. The run-ins, I was like, oh, what? Like, and then Sting and the Murder Hawk are getting involved, and there was just a lot. I don't know. It wasn't awful. It would still be the best thing on any WWE show. But I don't know. It just, I don't know. The coffin drop off the scaffolding through onto the stage with Matt Hardy on the table was pretty great. But yeah, really good episode. I'm sorry about the sort of lackluster performance today, guys. I really, really have been close to hospitalization this week, so I've had to pull myself off my deathbed to come and do the episode for you. We will have. I am starting to feel better, so I'll be fine. I'll live. But yeah. So Matt and I are recording our next Nitro episode. I apologize for the quality of audio for the last couple. We have built new studios and are using new systems, and it was just a human error fuck up on my end. So that won't happen again. We've worked out what that is. So you should be getting pretty primo audio quality from now on. We are still in the process. We would have had Patreon up and running by this time, but again, my illness and Matt being on holiday has gotten in the way of that. But we've also got a couple of things that we're thinking of doing for Patreon or patron fan or patrons or Patreons of like exclusive series and stuff like that. So, but we'll tell you more about that once we've actually decided that. I'm going to go and curl up and die, guys. But thank you for all your support. You can follow us. Our website is captivatefm.com/WrestleWolf. I think that's right. That's probably not right. You can just type in WrestleWolf with the first thing that comes in. I want to thank Captivate FM for hosting us. Find us on the socials. Leave a review for us either at Podcaster or on Apple Podcasts. But until next time, brother friends, Pepe is dead.